Finally, after some time, after moving and after all of the problems, we can speak with Dominick Cardone. Nice to meet you, brother.
Yeah, it's good to meet you. Finally, I appreciate having me on. Thank you.
How was the moving? Florida?
It was long. It was long. I mean, we drove down. It was a 35-hour drive. We broke it up over five. We thought we were going to get here in 3 days. We wound up taking 5 days to come down, and now the house is getting it set up. But yeah, now I'm down in Florida from Vegas, so it was well worth the drive and the all the work.
What made you change the city?
Yeah,
State?
I moved to Vegas to get into bodybuilding. To get back into bodybuilding, excuse me, 2020, 10 days before COVID. Um, yeah, as you know, I had a few years off after 2016. I tried working my way back, moved to Vegas to get myself out of New York to, really just focus on the comeback. As of last year, last June, that, my own competitive goals are now behind me for good. So yeah, I was like, it's time to leave Vegas behind me, get closer to family, be near the beach, which I love the beach, be in a more productive environment, which is a very big impact on my mental status and my emotional status. And I want my clients to be able to succeed at the highest level possible. For them to do that, I need to make sure I am, in a sound place. So I was like, that's it. After years of wanting to come to Florida, I'm here now. So
It seems to be a hard to move, be moving all around because as either you are this lean or either you are this tired. Because when looking at your eyes, you have just skin just falling. So are you this tired or are you actually this lean?
I'm both. Yeah, so that's
Okay.
that's the thing too is when I decided to retire from bodybuilding last year. I mean, I'm like 245, 250. Um, but yeah, I mean, it looks a bit more dramatic because of the lighting. In person, it doesn't look as bad. I mean, it looks pretty cool on the camera. It looks like I'm getting ready for a show again.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I am pretty much I'm pretty damn lean right now. I stopped all my gear cold turkey last year for about 4 months. I'm on my TRT dose when I remember to take it, and I don't really eat much either. I maybe eat 2 to 3 times a day now because I am trying to get smaller for MMA fighting. I do a lot of cardio. I don't really do any weight training anymore, other than some functional training because the training now has changed. But yeah, my cardio condition is the best it's probably been ever. Because of the level that the new training forces me to take my body to.
Yeah, what I've noticed is that bodybuilders, once they retire, they are happy because of the two things. They don't have to chop themselves, and they don't
Yeah,
have to eat this crazy amounts of food.
exactly. I'm so and we when we say TRT, we should have a strict regimen, but even that I don't even want to do anymore. And I say whenever I remember, which isn't the smartest thing. But the food, like you just nailed it. I mean, I've always loved eating. I had no problem eating, but it's now great that I could leave my house and not have to worry about bringing a meal or having to stop my client work to go eat every 3 hours. So it's great. It's kind of like a new freedom.
Are you done for good with bodybuilding? You are not coming back, or I know it's hard to speak about the future because you are still a young guy. You were one of the youngest pros, yeah.
Yeah, well, I turned pro at 21. I think the youngest before me was Shane Demora in 1988 or 1989. And then Cody Montgomery won his pro card at 20 at the USA's the year after me. So I was one of the youngest in history in open bodybuilding. I won the heavyweight class. I have to say it's safe to say I'm done, for good because I did try to. I truly gave it my all to come back. I had mercury. I had health issues which nobody could figure out over a few years. It turned out to be mercury poisoning. Go figure. Last year, from January to June, I made my final push. I got it to 290, but my body just didn't feel right. When you do bodybuilding, obviously there's a risk involved. It just felt like I was tipping that scale a little bit more in the risk versus reward, a bit more than I wanted. So I was like, you know what? That's it. Let me pull back completely on this. I spent an enormous amount of money on figuring out the health issues, getting them fixed. And it was time for my focus to go fully to the athletes that I coach. And anyways, they deserve all of me. Me, I'm an all or nothing type of person. And to want to be Mr. Olympia and want to be the coach to future Mr. Olympias, that attention is going to be split up somewhere. I don't care what anybody says, especially when you're trying to get that high level. So I was like, you know what? That's it. Let me put this behind me. I gave it my all. I've turned pro young. I've had great experiences. Now it's time for my focus to go into my athletes. And then, of course, for my own personal training, my own personal goals, I fight MMA now. So,
uh, being so long with Lex Lewis, was his persona, his whole experience, because he's a veteran of the sport, was it a part of you understanding that it's time to move on from bodybuilding?
that's actually a great question. If I didn't have Flex in my life, I probably would have kept pushing. And who knows what would have happened with my health. Because, once we get locked into, I was like, I need to come back. I wanted to do the New York Pro this year. I wanted to win the New York Pro, and I wanted to go to the Olympia. Me and Flex are very close. I consider him a brother. We're family. And I remember when we were training together, and I actually remember I was in Florida at the time when he called me to tell me that, yeah, I was visiting Florida, and he called me to tell me that that was it for him. It's time for him to let go, focus on family, focus on business. And I remember hearing a sense of relief in his voice, and it just sounded like a brand new person. I remember getting off the phone. I remember thinking to myself, "Damn, that sounds nice." Because at that time, I didn't feel too well. It was last February or March, whatever it was. It was before he announced it. And, I actually sat down with him. I spoke to him about my concerns with my health, the future plans. And he said, he goes, what are the benefits? What are the risks? Does the risks outweigh the rewards? He goes, is it going to improve your coaching? Is it like, what's it doing for you? And, he was right. And I was like, you know what? It's time to shift my focus and leave it behind me. And, at times I'm like, damn, like even any professional athlete, that was half my life. And I really did want to make it to the Olympia and win the Olympia one day. I wanted to win an Arnold Classic. I didn't want to just compete. And I really gave my all into that comeback. But when he spoke to me and I seen that he was letting it go, I was like, okay, you know what? I think I can do this too. And we made that decision together pretty much.
I see that even though you believed in winning the Olympia, but once the athlete gets doubts in his mind and he's like, what if? Then he's probably on the path to being done with the sport.
I agree, because that's what was happening last year. And, me coming up throughout the years, I always stood humble, but I always was confident in my mind, confident in the gym, confident with the food, with my mindset. Oscar Arden was a great mentor of mine. Kai Green was a great mentor of mine. So, and as you know, being a big fan of the sport, you know how they're a little bit out there, but, that's how I was from a young age. And last year when I had these doubts, I was like, man, something's not right. But I kept pushing and I kept pushing and I kept pushing. And then finally, I was like, me and Flex spoke, and I said that was it. Because if you're going to, everybody talks about wanting to go pro, everybody talks about wanting to be Mr. Olympia, but to have that self belief and that confidence that you truly believe in yourself and confident in is about 1% of the people that talk about it, and 1% of the people that put into their action. Because you really have to truly believe it and put into the actions that you're doing day in and day out to achieve whatever goal it is. That's either in bodybuilding and mixed martial arts, football, whatever it is, So you're absolutely right with that point. When you start to get those what ifs, once that mental mindset shifts, everything else shifts.
Nick is that kind of person that he just believes in himself. Nick Walker, you used to coach him, yeah?
Yeah, so I coached him. I apologize, looking at my phone, making sure my girlfriend isn't knocking at the door. Yeah, so I coached him. I took him on at the North Americans 2017. Then he did nationals 8 weeks after or so, whatever it was, placed eighth, and then he just exploded. We worked together that whole off season. That's when he really, started gaining some traction. And we parted ways 2 weeks before USA's 2018, and it wasn't a good falling out either. But yeah, that's when he exploded. I remember back then he even believed in himself, like wholeheartedly believed in himself. And to this day, I still follow what he does, and he's taken it to a whole nother level for himself. That's that belief that you need. That's very reminds me a lot of how Jay Cutler was. All the top guys. Their belief goes into the action that they're doing in the gym with the diet and everything of the sort.
I remember Sean Florida was the same way. There are stories that he was walking to the gym, being a skinny guy, like 150 or something, and he was saying already then that you will see, I will be a top bodybuilder. He just believed in himself, and he kept working. And no matter how many years it took him, he's now becoming a legend, so to speak, of the 12.
I remember watching. I was there when he turned pro. It was the Nationals. They had it in Atlanta, Georgia at the time, 2012. And I watched him turn pro, and he was, he was shredded, but he was tiny. He was very small. I forget what weight class he was. And I remember shortly after him saying he was going to do it. I'm not going to lie. Even me at the time, I was like, I don't know if this guy can do it. I don't know with his frame. And he surprised me. He proved me wrong. And from a physique point, Sean has always been an incredible human being and an incredible person. He was in Jersey. I was in New York. But that's one of those people. He puts his head down. He works. He doesn't get caught up into all the other nonsense the industry has to offer. And that's what it takes on any sport or endeavor that somebody's taking on where they want to be the best,
The part of moving was there because of the MMA, because there are plenty of great schools there where you moved to the Florida.
So a big reason of why we moved, so we're in Boca Raton. We moved to here because in Coconut Creek, they have American Top Team.
Yeah.
American Top Team in Killcliff, which is the old Sanford Sons. And the hopes is to be able to train at America. I'm waiting to hear back any day as it's invite only. I only have 7 or 8 months of training, whatever it is, under my belt. I trained at Extreme Couture in Vegas, where Francis Ngannou trained out of. Eric Nixick is the head coach. So I've had some of the best mentors that, thankfully, there were in the world to offer. So I'm hoping my training's enough to get into American Top Team. So that was actually a big reason of why we came to South Florida, was because, I need to be close to family, the beach, but the MMA is now a big part of my life too. And I have my own personal goals of setting that and some business to finish with that now.
What are your goals besides just having a one professional fight? What are your true goals?
Oh, I'm going to become a world champion one day.
In UFC,
I would hope it's the UFC, Bellator, one of these organizations. I mean, UFC is the best of the best, but now we have Bellator, we have UFC. There were very few guys who started martial arts later in their mid to late 20s who actually became champions. I mean, my main inspiration was Francis Ngannou. He started in his late 20s. He left Africa with nothing, went to Paris, and then he eventually went to Extreme Couture where I was training. And it was funny, when I remember watching his story earlier last year, I said, one day when I finish bodybuilding, I'm going to be just like Francis in a way. Little did I know that time would come a bit shorter than I intended. I thought it was going to be years down the line. But thankful to watching his experience and being surrounded by all these guys in Vegas, I jumped right into it as soon as I was done bodybuilding. I was 285 dying in that gym. But yeah, I want to show people that, listen, like bodybuilding, I have no martial arts experience. I was just bodybuilding half my life. And no matter what age I am, that I'm going to be able to accomplish this goal, and I will do it. I want to show people that it's never too late to explore something new and become one of the best in it. As long as you put your mind to it and your body's healthy, and as long as you're healthy and your body's in a sound place that you can put your mind to something and achieve it. That's what when people say, they talk about inspiration, this, and I just want people to realize that, it's never over till it's over. I'm still breathing. I'm still here. I've been to a bunch of things in my life, but I will always be able to achieve what I set my mind to, and I want other people to have that same belief in themselves, while being humble and respectful to others, of course. But I think one of the most beautiful things we could have in this world is a belief in ourselves and achieving our dreams. So I want other people to see the same thing.
Yeah, we have plenty in Europe federations, or it's hard to call them a federation because I'm speaking about the freak fights. Plenty of people don't really consider them sportsmen or so on, but I think that they can work in both ways, because they can show that the people who are, from the really poor families who were a wrong example, now they can set a example that sport can change their lives. How it is in the States? Do you have lots of free fights? Because I know that the Jake Paul is quite like
Yeah, you know what? It's not like how it is in I mean, we have a lot of amateur fights here and the fights like that, you know, Jake Paul, I don't like to use his as an example because he's very wealthy, comes from YouTube. Honestly, I find my inspiration from, you know, the guys in South America, the guys and girls from Europe, Russia, you know, the guys from Russia, the guys from that whole area, because a lot of those guys come from nothing, like you just said. My girlfriend, she comes from a farm, had nothing. Started fighting at 6. You know, she's in the Power Slap organization with the UFC. She's going to be on the Ultimate Fighter eventually. She'll be, no doubt in my mind, double champ of the world one day. You know, her athletic abilities are unreal, but she's come from nothing. You know, I watch like a lot of the guys from Dagestan, a lot of the guys from Europe. They come from nothing, but they show the world that with self-belief and work, that they could achieve it. But we have here in the US, we have people have money, they have access to training technology, but they don't reach the level as a lot of the Europeans do, you know? So it's, I think Europe, South America, and those are quite a bit ahead of this country just from the fact that they are more ahead up here. You know, here people have money, they have access to the highest quality gyms and equipment and stuff like that. But Europe and all the other countries are way further ahead, in my opinion. That's why they're taking over.
perhaps that's why, because they have no other choice. You know, they just have the sport. If they don't have any other, you know, like the paths or ways to explore their lives, to be honest. Because when you look at the Dagestan people, like
Habib,
Khabib,
yeah.
for example, when he speaks, you see the truth, you hear the truth. He speaks like he said, for example, that he only eats water and bread. And you're like, yeah, this guy only eats water and bread. He doesn't really care about much more because perhaps he doesn't have a choice.
No, it's true. I mean, I've seen it firsthand with my girlfriend. She lives a very simple life. She goes, we just need the simple things in life. We need house over our head. We need good food, and that's it. And I was like, well, and she really means it. And funny, I got to meet her when she's fully involved in the fighting world, with being a former fan of the fighting world, you know, and seeing what all these guys have gone through and hearing their stories, because it's all they have. They don't have any distractions here in this country. I'm going to say it straight out. Even the bodybuilders take what they have for granted. There's
Yeah.
so many distractions. They take what they have for granted. We have more money here. We have better gear here, plenty of food, gyms, and a lot of guys, they take it for granted, you know, and it's sad to see there's so many bodybuilders here with potential, even other athletes here potential, but they get so lost in everything else. And yet there's a kid or a man in another country, like in Europe or South America, or wherever, who wishes they had these resources, you know, but they don't know any better, like you said, because that's all they have. So they're going to make it.
We have people who started late the bodybuilding career, like Samson Dauda, for example. And as you said about the people from the States, we often hear about the guys who are like 20s. They are supposed to be a future Mr. Olympia. 30 comes, not much changes. They are still okay pro, even though if they would put their whole heart into it, they would be a top. And then when they actually realize what you said, being closer to 35, 40, that's when they explode. And that's when they become Mr. Olympia. And that's when they suddenly drop, because they drop places because the age catches them. They're like first, and then eighth. Yeah,
It's inevitable in most sports. You know, it happens in every sport. Unless you get a freak, you know, who like God rest his soul, Sean Roden. We have Dexter Jackson. It's very far and few people could beat time. And like you just said, the mid-30s is usually where guys peak. And then to their 40s, they get better. And that drop off. It's just the body can only take so much, you know, especially when we have hormones involved in such high amounts of food and hard training. I mean, genetically, what you've done in the past, the history is just, it happens. You know, it's just some people, it's a matter of timing. Others is a matter of genetics. You know, you brought up Samson. You know, he's one of my favorite up and coming competitors right now. Not a lot of guys excite me anymore at bodybuilding. I'm not going to lie. But him, Hoffa, Brandao, Derek Lunsford, physiques like that, like, ooh, I remember watching Samson should have placed much higher, in my opinion. You know,
yep.
he looks incredible, absolutely incredible. That's bodybuilding to me. But that shows you he got into a little bit older. But now, the fact that he got into it older, his body still looks fresh. As long as he plays his cards right, which I believe he will, he's just going to get better and better and better and better, and then eventually he'll hit that peak of age, and we don't know when that'll be, but he's not there yet to fall off.
He's got an immense story as well about his past, because he used to work like a normal shift job until like 2 years ago. He was still a mechanic. He was working on the farm as well. He was just doing a labor, manual labor, and then suddenly people see that the final effect, the final product. They don't see what the past has brought. When he was locked in Korea because he couldn't, and he was prepping in the in the room for 2 weeks. He was just doing the running in the place, and hands push up and so on. It's a story that would sell in America, so to speak.
Unfortunately, a lot of people, the attention span here is like a little bit here, and they don't. Me, I'm all about stories and where people have came from. That's why, back to what we're saying with Francis Ngannou in the UFC. Yes, he's a heavyweight. I would be a heavyweight, but his story is what inspired me. Escaping from Africa when the conditions that he escaped and then coming from nothing. Samson's story, like those are the stories I love to see. Those are the stories people need to hear about. Forget about the physiques, right? Everybody has social media. Everybody's showing their physique. I wish more of these stories were shared, like Samson's story, because a lot of people need to learn, especially here in the United States, that they're taking what they have for granted, and you have somebody like that with the story he had, and now look at him, and it's just incredible. I really love hearing and seeing stories like that. I love hearing and seeing, because it makes me, even me, myself, put things back into perspective where they should be.
What made you start coaching? Because one of your first clients, so to speak, was your dad, yeah?
Yeah, so he made me start in a way. So sorry if you hear my dogs.
Yeah, no problem.
I was 16. I probably had no business coaching. I did my first show when I was 16, MPC Metropolitans 2010. He asked me for a diet the next week because he was kind of like fasting. He just wanted to put on some muscle. And then a month later, he goes, "Can I compete one day?" He never bodybuilded before. He wasn't even weight training. So I was like, "Yeah, sure, I guess." So no, excuse me. Well, yeah, I just want to start training. I want to put on some muscle. So after a few months, he goes, "I want to compete." I was like, "Sure." He goes, "But one rule." He goes, I want you to coach me." He goes, "I want you to be like Fakri," because Fakri Mubrak was my first coach with competing. And I says, "Okay, sure." And so I only used whatever Fakri taught me. He was a great mentor of mine and what I did on the internet. And 13 or 14 months later, he did his first show and he won all his classes. And he looked, I mean, I wish I knew back then what I know now, because he would have went pro his first year. I didn't know what I was doing. He was on 0 carbs for 6 weeks, doing concrete 10 to 12 hours a day. The amount of diuretics I gave him, cutting his water, no carbs, I just didn't know. But he still looked, the transformation was incredible. And it just goes to show you our genetics, but also, too, he didn't miss a beat. Like, there was nothing. Like, from day one, he was training like a high-level bodybuilder, eating like a high-level bodybuilder. And from there, for a few years, people would say, "Hey, would you like to help me?" I was like, "Sure, I'll help you." And I was always very big into studying, and I had great mentors who would actually explain things to me. And it started as a side thing. And then I never forget the first person who offered me money when I was 18, I believe it was, 17. I had to borrow my parents' car to drive to Long Island, New York, to go pick up my payment and sit down with them. I was like, okay, this could be a thing. And then it was just a side thing for years. And then it was March 2018 when I went full time with it. But yeah, it was my dad who was my first client. And if it wasn't for him, who knows if I would be coaching today? I don't think I would be. I think I would have I don't know what I would have been doing, to be honest.
Yeah, I had to show this, client, so to speak, because I see so many people when I go to, for example, Ian's page, and they ask if he charges sebum for money. If he charged, I'm like, what the hell is wrong with people? Who would charge their family? No.
Right. And it's especially, I would never charge my father, especially if they would ever get my father. He did everything for me. But I always think that whenever somebody brings up this story, I think back because now I have guys turning pro. My first goal was to have somebody win the regional class. So it was him. And then it was a very slow process to get people to trust me. And it still is. I'm still waiting for that breakout high level client. I'm okay turning amateur guys from nothing into something. That means a lot to me, more than having people win the Olympia. And I remember it started with regional class wins and overall, and then just wanting to get somebody to have their glutes in. That was like the obsession. I need to have somebody have shredded glutes. And then I got that down. And then I was consistently having guys place in the top 5 in national level shows. And then finally earning pro cards. And then finally I had my first Olympian this past year. And I've had God knows how many transformations. But yet it all started with him. And I think back every time somebody wins something or achieves a look, I was like, wow, it all just started. I remember when we were sitting at my family's counter, and when he said that, I'll never forget that.
But now you have like Elliott, Ross, those young guys who are really making a great progress. Elliott had some injuries now, from what you're
Yes.
saying, and
Yeah, I
Ross
mean,
is about to compete, I think, yeah?
I have Elliott, I have Ross, I have a bunch of hungry guys in the team that have been loyal. Elliott, I feel so bad for him. He's 24, 24, 25, whatever he's young. And
24, he stated yesterday.
yes, it was 23 a few days ago. I still look at him like a little younger brother now. We've gotten very close. Last year, he had a back out of 2021. He backed out of nationals because of COVID. A few weeks out, he got it real bad. I said, let's not. I don't like to take health risks when somebody gets COVID, especially back then. Was known about it. We backed off, got his gyno surgery, came off, exploded.
Yeah.
We were supposed to do nationals this year, and I never seen anybody change as quick as he did when we started that prep 20 weeks out. I mean, he could have did the North Americans and won, but we would focus on nationals. And then he had a bicep injury. He lifted up his gym bag. He texted me right away. He goes, "There's a bruise on my arm." He goes, "I felt something pop." He goes, "What do you think?" And it was over here. So I was like, "Okay, it's okay, no big deal." In my head, I'm like, "Fuck," but I'm telling him, "No big deal. Just stay calm." And he went to his orthopedic. They did a scan. I wanted an MRI to be done. The doctor just did the ultrasound. I wanted an MRI. That's going to tell you what's clearly going on. And the doctor said, take off some time. I said, all right, no big deal. Take a few weeks off your upper body. Who cares? He was ready to go almost at that point. Train your legs. And then it happened again. He said, Dom, I felt it pop again. Now the bruising was coming up. And he got checked again. And the doctor said, anything is pretty bad. And he took off a few months of training. But the problem is he's still having issues with it. And I wish the doctor did an MRI back then, because he took his time off. He did what he had to do to recover. It was obviously worse than what the doctor was saying. So now he has an appointment in 2 days, January 30th, to see if he may need a surgery or not. So he may not be competing this year. We will see. So we may have to take the device. So he's young. He should recover fast. It's just more time off for him. I'm a big advocate of time off. He's big enough right now. So if he takes some time off and focus on his recovery, it'll be fine. So when we decide to put the gas on the pedal again, we will.
Yeah, I've asked him yesterday when am I going to see him compete? He said, once my body stops breaking down on me. And I was like, damn, again.
Yeah.
This guy has just no luck. As you said, he was just putting his bag up, and those injuries happen often. And when we speak about, because we mentioned the diuretics and so on, because there is often now classic is mentioned as the, so to speak, healthier class to be in. I really don't think so, especially because of the weight cap, which is the most dangerous thing for us bodybuilders, you think?
I think I multiple points on that. Um, the open guys and the bigger guys, quote unquote, definitely are using more stuff. The classic use is definitely up there. I mean, it depends on what we're talking about. I mean, heart issues always come to mind later on. Kidney issues always come to mind. But of course, those weight cuts are pretty vicious, especially if diuretics are used in the weight cut, which a lot of the times they are. So cramming into that weight class, dehydrating yourself on top of the stress from the drugs and the long prep. I mean, if you're not seeing anything short term, you're definitely going to see something long term, like for sure. But if I was to pick one of the two, who's at more of a risk? I'm going to say the open guys are at more of a risk.
Yeah, because we are for longer abusing it for a longer
Yeah,
time.
exactly. Yeah, I mean the dosages are higher, much bigger. It's a lot more stress in the body for longer periods of time, like you're saying. And the dosages I've heard go on with a lot of these pros are just mind blowing to me. I don't want to spread it out there, but I've seen some factual stuff of this stuff that goes on, and it's stuff I would never think to do. Even I've pushed things before, and it's the things that are going on are just mind blowing to me. And it also correlates to why guys look the way they look. But there's also a reason why I'm starting to favor the classic look and 212 look in terms of conditioning and quality, because the drug use is just out of control. So if I was to pick one or two, I'm going to personally pick the open guys are definitely at more of a risk.
Sometimes people think that because we look, so to speak, healthy on the outside, that insides are perfectly fine, and those are far from.
And you're right. I've had people come to me to become new clients, and they said they feel great. You run their blood work. I had one guy who came to me. We did his blood work, and his EGFR was like 20 or 20. His kidneys were failing. I'm like,
Yeah,
whoa! Like, I'm serious. I'm dead serious. His creatinine was like 6. I was like, I'm like, what did your last coach say about this? Oh, you had me take the supplement. This I was like, your kidneys are failing. Like, this is a problem. And I don't know what told me to do this. We fixed it. I got him in touch with Dr. O'Connor, got him on some blood pressure medication. He looked at it, changed up his diet, and he's normal now. But this is definitely a rare case.
yeah.
But you're right. Like a lot of these guys, they look great on the outside, but on the inside, like a lot of people don't have no idea what they're doing to themselves. Another thing I want to say is too is, especially with the bigger guys, your blood work may be great, but eventually you need to get your heart scanned, the echocardiogram, cardiac CT scan, an ultrasound of the liver and kidneys would be great as well, even the thyroid too. See if those are enlarged, if they have any cysts or tumors on it, see the function of that, because guys are getting bigger and bigger, and your blood work may be good. But one thing I have to give credit to George Farah 2 years ago is telling me, like, listen, things may be good now, but later on, you don't know what's going to happen. And I've seen it with people. So people really just have to really start looking. Listen, I love bodybuilding. I'm not bashing bodybuilding, but I have to be very honest that with people, it comes at a risk. And I accepted that risk when I did it. With my clients, they need to understand and accept that risk, but we can mitigate a lot of these problems that are happening. So, but yeah, it's crazy. A lot of the stuff that's going on,
Yeah, as you said, because people are sometimes like waking up suddenly and they have, their kidneys almost failing. And as you said, coming back from 6 point something creatinine levels, it's not easy. It doesn't happen often. It barely happens, to be honest. You are probably done.
I even asked somebody who's very knowledgeable and very high up in the industry. I said, should I even take this guy on? He said, Dom, stay away from this guy. This guy is going to die. And I don't know what it was that told me to help this guy. And to this day, he's completely normal. He stays away from bodybuilding, though. But to this day, he's, thank God, completely normal. Has 3 kids now, 4 kids. Just had another kid, But a lot of these people, these things don't get reversed. And over the past year and a half, the amount of heart issues I've seen out of pros not talking about it, and it's getting worse. And I just wish more guys would look after themselves and take time off. And you know what? If they looked after themselves as much as they should, they would look even better on the outside. Because, like, as you know, internally, if things start going wrong, it's going to show externally, physically,
Yeah, as you said, even the inflammation and even your liver has so much impact on our, body, how it looks, because all of the toxins have nowhere to go if our liver it doesn't function as it's supposed to. When we speak about the percentages, because often people say like it's 80% of diet, 20% of training, some percent of drugs, and so on. What is the most important thing in bodybuilding, and what is the most neglected part of bodybuilding?
In today's time, in today's time, the most important parts are neglected, and that's the diet and training. Absolutely. I mean, the days of seeing guys go into the gym and just give it their all are far behind us. It's very far and few guys. Things have gotten way too scientific. Things have gotten way too textbook. You get attacked if you talk about things that are not proven by science. But then people come back with the counter that, that it only worked for the genetically blessed guys. I go, no, no, no. Shows as an overall years ago from, first call out to last call out were great quality. Look at the old Olympias. If we have better technology today and more drugs and this and that, then why aren't guys better? Guys aren't pushing the diet as hard as they used to. They're not. They're not pushing it in the gym as hard as they used to. I mean, the training is a stimulus for everything. I mean, aside from putting muscle on, that hardness of the muscle, the detail, the way it's just shaped is started in the gym. We've seen it throughout history. Like, why are we arguing with what has come before us? And I understand things have to evolve, but it's de-evolving. Let's put the work in. Like that, it's so hard, yet that simple. The diet. Why are we overcomplicating the diet? Like, there's just no reason to. Like, you need to get lean. You need to do cardio. Most people, everybody's different. But from a general standpoint, people are neglecting the meat and potatoes of what bodybuilding is. And we're too busy with the science books and the drugs and these protocols and these weird keywords. Like, let's get back to the basics here. Let's actually train hard. Let's actually be athletes. Bodybuilders, a lot of bodybuilders are not athletes anymore in my mind. They do more sleeping and walking and playing video games than they do training. I hate to sound negative. It's just the looks today are reflecting that. That's why I look at somebody like Samson and Hoffa and Derek. I'm like, that I know what they do behind the scenes, and I know they're working hard. And look at how they look. They may not be as big as Nick or Big Ramy, but I love their physiques. Guys like that, I know me and Hoffa are good friends. I know what Derek does behind the scenes. I know how Samson is. And, that is the effort of putting your eggs in the right basket.
Yeah, as you said, we have the science and it can be used properly. But the problem is that science has to be mixed with the hard work. Doesn't matter if you're pulling a cable or are you rowing a bar, do it 100%. Always
Right.
just come to the gym and be a little bit better. And that's how it's, and do it for 10 years straight, and then expect the results, not unless you are a genetic freak. And those as well have to work. Even Phil Heath, he had to put in the work.
Right. No, it's true. You're right. No matter what it is you do, you have to aim to be better every day in some way. Oscar taught it to me when I was a teenager that every day is a brick and you're building a house. Every day you're putting a brick in, a brick. If you build a bad foundation to the house is going to fall. If you're just putting half a brick here or a cracked brick there, how are you supposed to build a perfect house? It'll never be perfect, but, it's just aim to be better, but aim to be truly better. Don't just rely on numbers. Don't I could go on and on about this. I mean, you've been around the industry. I know we have the same mindset in a lot of these. I just wish a lot of people went back to the basics and made bodybuilding what bodybuilding was. Hard work. Let's fucking train. Let's eat. Let's diet hard. Let's have a better sense of camaraderie. And, but it's okay because those people will be limited out at some point, as the people like Derek, who just went from 212 to second. I think he could have won that Open Olympia.
There's a debate between if Hadi would have been there, Nick could have won. Do you agree with that Nick could have beaten Derek?
No, I don't agree, because if anything, Nick would have got second. Derek placed ahead of Nick for a reason, and people talk about the comparisons. I knew. So 2021, June or July, Derek came to the Dragon's Lair in Vegas, and he was in his office. He was like 240, posing. He had his glutes look. I remember looking at him. I was just like, it was incredible. Like it was one of the most incredible things I've seen in all my years watching bodybuilders. I remember going up there with Derek. We spoke for a bit. He was in a whole different mindset. Like, dude, are you ever going to go to Open? He goes, yeah, someday. Someday. I knew in that day he was going to win the Olympia on the Open level numerous times. And then last year when we see Nick and him in the Pittsburgh guest posing, when Derek just looked like one of those old school guys, but better. I said, this kid, if he does the Open this year, a lot of guys are in trouble. And I knew he would beat Nick. I knew he would. Like, you just, that shape that he has, the X frame, his waist, the level of details, even his skin. If Hadi wasn't there, Derek would have won the Olympia. Like, I 100% believe that. Nick would have been right behind him. I mean, I personally had Samson ahead of Nick, in my opinion, just because Samson has a cleaner look. But that's my opinion. Samson's look is just much cleaner to me. That's, you put Samson and Derek next to each other. Those are two beautiful physiques. That is bodybuilding to me. Nick has that freak factor, which we all love too. But again, it's like comparing apples and oranges. But, to say if Hadi wasn't there, Nick would have won, I don't agree with that. Derek would have won.
Let's now skip for a second personal preferences and just look at it as a current judge. It is about 5 weeks out from Arnold, if I remember well. Yeah, something like 4 weeks, something like this.
Yes, roughly, because about 5 weeks, I believe, or 6 weeks.
Who wins, Samson, Hadi, or Rami, if he can redeem himself and come somewhere close to 21?
Yeah, so judging aside, political expectations aside, Samson, Hadi, or Rami, I'm going to be a wild card here. If Rami is close to 2021 or better, he can win it. Like, I mean, I remember watching Rami in person then. If he is, I truly don't think he will be, because it seems like he has some nerve damage. But Rami at 100% better than 2021, that's hard to beat. Hard, grainy, like with the size, that's hard to beat. Hadi would be right behind him. If, again,
I meant Nick, not Hadi, because I'm talking about the Arnold.
Oh, God. I think you said Hadi for some reason.
No,
Hadi's not even doing the Arnold.
Yeah.
That's the thing. If Rami is 100% better than 2021, he would win. And then you would have Nick right behind him, and then probably Samson. But if Samson's, judging aside, if Samson's improved, Rami's 100%, I'm going to have Nick in third and Samson in second.
That will be a huge jump for Samson.
Yeah, I know. It'll never happen. We know it'll never happen. But it's from my opinion of how bodybuilding should be judged. And the wow factor of everybody and who really stands out to the eye the whole time. Rami at 100% better than 2021, he's going to win. He's going to be very hard to beat. Samson, if he's improved from the Olympia, again, I had him placing higher just because I love his physique. It's a very pretty physique, and he's not small by any means. And then Nick would be right there. But if we were to come back realistically, Nick can win the Arnold. Absolutely. He can absolutely win the Arnold, for sure.
I do like Samson's physique a lot as well. And I hope that he's even like, we always speak about those fucking percentages. And you're like, those percentages are like,
I can't help it.
You can't just put it into like 2% better or something like this. If he is sharper, so to speak, and he's the same size, he can be just unbeatable.
I agree. No, I agree. He's right there. Again, like you said, I hate using percentages, but we kind of have to because it's always a wild card these days. Yeah. But he will be unbeatable. Him and Derek will be going head to head for years if they keep improving, which I don't see them slowing. There's no reason for them to slow down with improving,
Yeah, Jay used to hate those percentages, and
I know.
And Cedric used to hate them as well. May he rest in peace. What is the future besides the MMA for you? What are your plans, your goals?
Good question. I mean, I have some business stuff that's coming into play now. I don't want to reveal it yet. There's some things being worked on, but right now the goal is the coaching. The goal is the coaching. I got to really focus on my athletes. Well, I have a whole bunch of guys now under me. I have plenty of room for more. That is the main goal right now. I don't want to take on too many other things in my life to where it would take away from that. That is the main focus. And then, of course, MMA for me. Obviously, within the next 5 years, hopefully a family. Hopefully those other business things start going over this next year or two. But right now, my mind is coaching and MMA. That's it right now. I'm going full bore. I moved here to Florida to focus on those a bit more and move into that next chapter. But yeah, like I said, I have some business goals that are currently being worked on. But right now, my mind is all coaching and all MMA. That's it. So I'm all in.
You seem excited.
Oh yeah, you know, I'm very excited. I have that fire I had when I was
Again.
bodybuilding. Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, it's even just with the coach now that it's over for me, for myself personally. It took myself a few months to figure out my life. You know, I was like, what the hell am I doing? And even though I was training and focusing on the coaching, when coming into this new year and then moving to Florida, I said, okay, I knew that fire was going to ignite even more. And as soon as I got here, I said, okay, like let's get to work. And that fire is there. So if you want to talk about goals, I'm going to be, humbly speaking, going to be one of the best coaches in history. And then eventually, my MMA goals will come right behind it. So that's the focus, is making sure all my guys have the attention they need and have the knowledge behind them to help get them to where they want to go.
How can people get in contact with you?
They can contact me on Instagram, Dom Cardone, IFBB, DOMCARDONE IFBB. That's the best way they can contact me. DM me. I pretty much answer all DMs unless it's, nonsense. Or they can email me at ifbbdomcardone@gmail.com. But yeah, they can all contact, and I have a website as well, cardonenutrition.com. But those are the best ways to contact me. They can DM me or email me anytime, either be coaching or whatever it is.
And the contest has already started, because you have started the transformation contest, if I recall.
Oh, yes. So you've seen that. So it hasn't started yet. It starts February 15th, but they have to get the entries in by February 10th. Okay. So basically, it's a transformation contest, but they're being coached by me. It's $600 to enter. That's for 10 weeks of coaching. There's nothing different with the coaching experience other than the fact that they can win money, free coaching, now supplements, and a gift card from my sponsor, New Ethics, peptides or whatever they want from Amino Asylum, sauces and cream of rice from Ross Flanagan's Flavor Gang. There's prizes from first through third. I'm giving away $1,000 cash for first prize, $500 cash second prize, and all the categories have all the other prizes in it as well. And it's 10 weeks. It's whoever has the best recomp. So they're going to work with me one-on-one. I started doing this 2018. So it gives people a chance to work with me at a slightly discounted rate with incentive to win things. And I had a lot of the clients I have today came from the contests I did years ago. So I had people asking, we do one again? We do one again? So I'm doing it again. So if anybody's interested, DM me. Again, it's $600. You're getting coached by me fully. Nothing changes, except you're going to win something big if you have, a really good transformation. So, and it starts February 15th.
So it's all in your hands. Thank you for your time. And I wish you all the best in your goals in becoming the UFC or Bellator or world champion, as it is.
I appreciate it, brother. Thank you very much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.